Y'all, my reel has almost hit 1,000,000 views in less than a week. That's with no ads, that's with nothing extra. This is just straight up organic support from you guys, my community, sharing it, commenting under it, sending it to your friends, saving it. I see all y'all. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch the reel. As like a celebration, like a whole, like let's get this thing to 1,000,000 views. I'm going to drop the full process video, everything I did from start to finish on my YouTube page. So if you want to know like how did I get those results, what did I do, go watch the YouTube video and let's get this reel to 1,000,000. Oh, and if your doctor want to put me on his payroll, send him the video and tell him to DM me. So I'm going to give you guys a play-by-play of this scar camouflage I did on this older woman. She had a neck lift and the scar went behind her ears and then went up around the front of the ear and then to the side of her face. I'm really showing this because I want you guys to kind of get an idea of how long a service would take and how many passes I may or may not do when I go over clients. I don't really think about that. My whole point of going over the area multiple times is sometimes I may not fully cover the scar. It may even look like that, like you'll see the ink come out, but when I wipe it, there will be one little area that may have gotten missed. So if you think I went over it a bunch of times, it could be because the skin doesn't take up ink. Scars are very, very resistant. They look easy, the shape may be fine, but sometimes they literally don't take up the ink. So it's just like painting a canvas or painting your nails. You'll do a few coats for the color to come through. When I did this scar, I used a 1RL. Y'all know that's not my girl. Initially, I planned to use a 3RL, and I think I just started off with the 1 because right around the ear and the back of the ear, the lines were so small. So I used a 1, but because the scar was so thick to tattoo, like it was very resistant, I probably should have switched to a 3. But sometimes I get in the zone and I just kind of kept going. Like that part right there was extremely small. Here it got bigger, and this is where I could have used a 3. I could have probably even used a 5. So when she comes back, I definitely probably will not use a 1 unless there are some really, really fine lines there. You can see I am using a combination of tracing and I'm doing a lot of stippling with this scar. I don't use stippling often, but some of these areas are like so small and it's just like a little dot here, a little dot there. So I'm tracing and I'm stippling for the most part in this. I'm not using any kind of circling and I'm not doing the sweep method. I'm tracing and then doing stippling, tracing right there, right there. If you see the very, very small right there, that was a stipple. That is all stippling. I'm stippling, stippling, stippling because of the shape of the scar. So, and then it looks like I'm going in multiple times. It's just because it could be like the bottom part of the scar. You can't really see it up close, but maybe like right underneath of where I put the needle, that area didn't take up ink. So I'm going over it to just make sure that there are no empty spaces or it's not white. That scar was white compared to her skin tone. So to fill in white with the ink color is not paint. It is ink and it's very translucent. So you kind of do have to go over it multiple times for it to take up. And you can see the skin changing already and being responsive, like it's responding to the ink color. It's just that I'm trying to get as much even coverage as possible without causing a lot of trauma. I kind of eyeball it and wing it, like it's not bleeding a lot. You see it's a few areas where the skin is bleeding, but I'm only using water wipes. I'm just giving it a quick wipe and it's kind of going away. One thing to note is if there is a lot of blood, you don't want to let the blood mix in with the ink because it'll change the color. But as you can see when I wipe, the blood goes away, so it's not bleeding profusely. And there are a lot of blood vessels in your ears, so the ears are sensitive, so they do kind of bleed, especially around that. If you've ever like scratched your ear, you'll see it'll like make a bruise really easily. But as you can see, when I wipe, it's going away. And here I'm just getting closer to that line, because right there you can see that little space right above the ear is white. I'm gonna go back in and probably fill that in. I'm just getting closer to the line, and then I like to even it out so it doesn't look like a line. So a lot of times what I'll do is when I get coverage, I'll kind of add a little ink around that area for a blend. So that's why I'm doing a lot of stippling on this scar, because I'm trying to blend out the area that I tattooed to the rest of the skin to make it less drastic, so it doesn't look like I just painted in a line. So I'll go in and sometimes I'll put a little ink here, a little ink there, just to make what I do balance out and give it more coverage. And then I probably feel like we may have gotten the ear here, and then you'll see that I'll probably go back in, because now I can see the line that I tattooed. So I'm just going closely around that, giving it a couple of passes, trying to get as much coverage without causing as much trauma, like making the skin real angry. It's not bleeding a whole lot. It's not crazy red. And you see I'm gently holding that ear back, just gently, and I'm really only doing that to stretch the skin out, because what happens is when the skin is relaxed, sometimes it'll look like you got good coverage, and then when you move your hand or move your finger or stretch it out, you'll go, oh, it's actually like a couple of more areas there. Mind you, when you get your client, when they get home, they are going to move their skin, move around, turn at every angle, so you want to give them the best possible results. And then I always get as close to the hairline as possible. You kind of do a little SMP-ish with this, because remember, if she combs her hair, when she washes her hair, she does not want to see that scar. That was her main thing. She wanted to be able to pull her hair back. So we want this to blend in as close as possible. So I'm going like slightly in the scalp a little bit. I'm sorry you can't see it from this angle. There's no way for me to know that I had the machine covered up. I really just was thankful that she was cool and not tripping, and she let me record this whole thing. She has an ice pack to the other side of her face, because we did the opposite side first. So she has an ice pack there just to kind of help with that. And she's talking to me the whole time. You can see her mouth moving. I would have let y'all listen to the conversation, but honey, we was talking about all the things. Her daughter is in an interracial relationship, and so we were talking about that. She was really just giving me the tea on the situation with the boyfriend. But she's totally fine. Y'all can see she's moving her mouth. She's laughing in some parts of the video. And this is, especially at the top part, this scar was a lot bigger. She was even trying to ask me about the part underneath her neck. She was asking about another service. But the part around her ear is around her hairline. The scar was a lot bigger. If nothing else, when she comes back, I will probably tattoo the part around the ear with the 1 RL, and definitely do the bigger part with the 3, because I had to go over it a few times because of the size of the needle. That's also why it looks like I was going over it multiple times around the ear, because that needle is so small and it's great for small areas, but it's not wide. So just imagine like you're trying to pick up trash. So see how when I stretch the skin back, you can see that space right there. When I moved my hand and pulled it all the way back, you can see a little piece of area. That's what I mean about you want to move the skin around, just to make sure that you've covered up as much as possible so they get the maximum impact. Another thing I wanted to point out is the length and time. So as you can see, we're about halfway through this session. All in all, when I recorded this, I think this video was timed at about 23 minutes, and I edited out a few pauses where I may have just been like laughing or stopped to get ink, or sometimes when people are talking to me, I will literally like, what? And I'll just pause on camera. But the main thing I wanted you guys to see was how fast the session goes. And on some of the other videos, and of course the other demos, I slowed things down so you can see my movements. But here, this is literally in real time. This is how fast I tattoo. And once you make the ink, the tattoo session goes by pretty fast. You know, once you get in your flow, once this isn't a new skill for you, once you just get really comfortable with the tattooing. I always also wanted to point out that people think that scars are easier than stretch marks because of whatever reason. And just like here, I'm doing a lot of stippling for this area. It's not quite the same. Scars are very resistant. See how I'm stippling, tattooing, stippling. Scars are very resistant to ink. They don't take up ink uniformly. Unlike stretch marks, the ink doesn't just like absorb into the skin. Or, you know, when you're doing areas where there is healthy tissue, sometimes it feels like it's just very buttery. And that's not the case with scars. You'll feel the needle more or less pushing back. See how I'm tracing. I'm literally just tracing that line that I can see. And then going back in right here. It's fast stippling. Fast stippling. But you'll feel how tough the skin feels. This area would have been really easy, should have been really easy if it was on a different part of the body. Also, on the face and on the scalp, different parts of the face and the scalp feel different. So when I was tattooing closer to her hairline, you could feel the vibration of the scalp versus down by the ear. All of that is like very soft tissue. And I'm just going in and wiping and being gentle. I did not use any numbing creams. There is no need to use numbing cream. See, she's like laughing. We're having a whole conversation. She's so relaxed. There's no need to use numbing creams, especially for scars. Generally, scars are often like the clients are numb in their area anyway. So closer to the ear, she did have a little bit more sensitivity every now and then, but nothing that was crazy at all. She's like totally fine. She's smiling. We're talking. She's laughing. She's very relaxed. No pain. And I'm telling her that I think we'll be done in a few minutes. And she's like, already? I said, yeah, girl, this doesn't take that long. And she was like, wow. She told me that she said she got laser on her face. And she was like, she got her face lasered, like to remove hair. And she said this was nowhere near that. So if you guys zoom in closer to the bottom of the ear, you'll see where the scar is swelling up a little bit. You can now see like the scar being defined. And that's where the ice pack comes in. You see how if you look closer at the bottom, you'll see where you can almost see the scar, or where the skin is now pulling. It looks like it's tighter down there. That's the swelling that has now set in, because we're almost 12 minutes into this. So the scar is now starting to swell up a little bit. And when it starts to swell up a little bit, see, she's talking about something, child. When the scar starts to swell up a little bit, the clients will say like, oh, they might feel that, or they might feel a little bit more sensitive, and that is to be expected. But that's where the ice pack comes in. That's where the cooling solution comes in. All of that helps with the swelling. I am just really trying to make sure that I didn't miss any areas close to this hairline. And now that it's starting to swell up, see how skin looks tight down there, and you can more or less see the scar. Now it's starting to swell up. I probably will just not go over that area so much. I'm just trying to make sure, since she's comfortable and her skin is not as red anymore as it was, I'm just trying to make sure that I hit any little areas and we don't see any white spaces. I'm big about giving people what they pay for, honey. You get me to do your work, I'm gonna try to get you all the way back right the way you want it to be before you came in here. Customer satisfaction is like imperative, and people will literally move like 2 hairs out of the way to show you one little itsy bitsy area that you missed, and I try to avoid that at all costs. So I hope that you guys found this video really, really helpful. Like I said, I made a point to keep everything in because I wanted you to see how things are done in real time, like how often I wipe, the speed, the rate, how I tattoo, the speed, the rate, and you just kind of get a good overview of how a scar camouflage treatment goes versus stretch mark camouflage. You guys can see more of the techniques in some of the later videos presented in the course, but I actually think this was like a good overview of what scar camouflage looks like, especially on someone who is of a lower Fitzpatrick, someone who's older. You can see how she's tolerating it. Like right now, you can see she's literally having a whole conversation with me about whatever it is that we're talking about. She's totally fine, not in pain, relaxed, honey. She is just chit-chatting away, and I am wrapping up this service, and we're just kind of going on about our business, and things are fine. And you can see the swelling rate, how it responds. I'm just kind of wiping everything down, and I think I'm just like, I think we're done here. And I'm just really trying to make sure that I haven't missed any areas, and I can see her skin pretty good. And I think it's all good. Stay tuned or go back and look at the pictures for the after, but I think I did a great job. Okay.